thus far in this study, we have gotten to know each other. We have shared our secrets, some people for the first time. We have learned the truth about what abortion really is. And in chapter 4, we're going to talk about anger. And I think that there's a lot of surprise in this chapter because anger is always a mask for another emotion. And so we start to peel back the layers and look at what is driving us and what are we holding on very tightly to, and maybe what are we protecting. As you guys know, today's session is all about anger. And how we deal with it, and what's the biblical way of dealing with it. So I think this is going to be a really freeing session once we get into it. You know, again, there's some hard stuff that we're going to deal with, but to see that the Bible is the roadmap for how to deal with this, that you know, God gives us these emotions and they're valid, and we just need to know what's the best way to handle them. You know, screaming at the top of my lungs is probably not...
Throwing things.
No. Throwing things, yeah, maybe
not quite.
But that's what we'll talk about today, is just how to process the emotions and how to, you know, what's justifiable anger and what's not, and what's the best way to deal with it and the best way to handle it, you know, when you're in conflict, which we all need, especially me.
It holds you back from being free. It holds you back from cleansing yourself. It holds you back from many things. Relationships with loved ones, relationships with God, a good relationship with yourself.
When you have an abortion, you feel that you've lost a lot of control over your life. And maybe you didn't even have control over the decision to have the abortion in the first place. So that becomes an area of anger. Then when you start looking at it broader and broader, you start looking at the players that are involved. The father of the child, whoever you turn to for support that maybe wasn't supportive towards you, doctors, the media, I mean, it could go on and on. That's anger. You want to look at somebody and say, why and how did I end up in this place to start with?
Part of the homework in this chapter is for women to make a collage. They're pulling pictures and phrases from magazines, putting them together to show who it is that they present to everyone else. As we start to look at our anger and what drives it, we're peeling back the layers, and we will find that what we present is not necessarily who we are. We had the exercise where we had to make a collage, and the idea behind the collage is to, what are the masks that you put on? What is the facade that you show the world? Was what we were going for with this. And then as we go through this session, we're gonna start taking those masks off. And so if everybody would share a little bit about their collage, what they chose, and maybe why they chose some of the things, what it was that it was saying to you, about you, that kind of thing. So I mean, I will start, that's mine. I had a whole big stack of pictures that I chose from. And you know, I'm one that if everything looks good on the outside, then I can pretend it's good on the inside. And so the things like happy family and fun and laughter, that's all, I'm always trying to put that out there. But you see that there's makeup and there's clothes and there's jewelry, because these are all the things that I can put them on, and then I'm okay. But if you look a little closer, you'll see that there's like a big group of women over here, because I don't want to be just a face in the crowd, but I feel like I am. So yeah, a little bit about mine.
No, mine's really short, so it's not as pretty as yours. Anyway, so this is my small little collage. And very similar, I just want to look good on the outside, as long as everything looks good. And I would hear that a lot from people, like, I would never know there's anything wrong, or, even if I'm just having a bad day, like, I didn't know that was happening. It's because I didn't want you to know. Like, I just don't, why do you need to know that about me? So as long as, my clothes look nice and my hair is done somewhat well, then I'm okay. And just, being in control or being empowered, like, I'm in control of everything and I have the power of my own feelings and kind of keeping everything stuffed down. Is again another facade that I'm tough and I can handle it. There's nothing weak about me, but yet there is a very small little girl, I guess, inside me sometimes that, it's just a little sad, I guess. But anyway, so, and then laughing, comedy, everything, I could be in something really bad going on and I could be at a funeral and find a joke. So I can't take anything too seriously, because then it's just, those emotions come out, which come from further back than even the abortion. That's a symptom of other things in my life anyway. I have to have things a certain way. It's almost an obsession. But if it looks organized, I do it really, it's kind of an unhealthy thing. I have to have things a certain way because it's, again, a control thing, a power thing. But to other people, it's like, you're so organized, you have it all together. And so.
But when you grow up, I'm going to take these up. I'm keeping these for something later. When you grow up in a home that is completely out of control, that just stands to reason that you want to order your universe.
Right. And I can recall that. I can recall those when it was really intense in the house. As a little girl, I would be in my room when the fighting was going on, and I would start cleaning out my drawers and just kind of put my clothes a certain way. And you learn about that later on. You think about your obsessive behaviors if you have that, like to that extreme. And that's the only thing I can really fix was what was ever in my room, because I'm 6 or 7 or 8. So yeah, that makes sense.
Coping mechanism.
Yes.
I'll share mine. Mine really is all based around this center statement that says, imagine having nothing to hide, which I saw that and just immediately loved. And this is kind of the outside part of me, and this is the inside. On the outside, same way, if I'm making everybody laugh and everybody's having a good time, then there's not a problem, and nobody can really see what's going on. So there's always the brighter side going on.
See a little bit more.
And then, like Jill was saying, on the outside, if I can figure the perfect haircut and have my makeup perfect, for me, it's all up here. But if I can look okay, then everything's okay. On the inside, for coping, I heavily turn to music. I just go up to my room, lock the door, put my headphones on, and I'm good. I can, again, hide the feelings, kind of get lost in the music and not have to feel as much. And then, as I've already stated before, food is my friend. And I especially love the cookie that has the hearts coming out of the bite. It's my favorite part. But then I as time progressed, I began turning to food to stuff the feelings and to hide the emotions. It was the only way I could suffocate those. So there's my circle of life.
When Surrender the Secret returns.
I actually did start cutting, and I would hide it, and that was just something that I would go and privately do when I just couldn't handle the pain anymore. Okay, well, I'll go. I didn't cut out anything. I just wrote mine. After I had my abortion, it was probably 2 months. I went off to college, and first guy I met, I was right there in a relationship that lasted 5 years. And it was a bad relationship, but in my head it was, I deserved it. I don't deserve any better. So I stayed there. I distanced myself from my family so I didn't have to talk about it. I didn't have to be, they didn't speak about it ever. But it was always the pink elephant in the room. when I was around, and that's how I felt. And it was, so I just held them at arm's length, because then I didn't have to deal with thinking about my abortion. I never would show the hurt, and so I would smile all the time. If I was smiling and just keep smiling, it's all good, I'll just keep smiling and everybody will think everything's fine. And I won't have to answer any questions, and I won't have to feel all that. So my smiling, like you, I could smile at a funeral, because again, if I let it all go, it was all gonna go. And then I actually did start cutting, and I would hide it, and that was just something that I would go and privately do when I just couldn't handle the pain anymore. And I would cut, and it was almost a release of the hurt, and I could see it, and I could touch it, and it was tangible. The cutting was tangible, and instead of it just being an emotion that I couldn't see. So that's what I masked my feelings with, so nobody knew what was going on.
I like that you did kind of the puzzle pieces thing, that was what as I looked at this, I was like, it's pieces of a puzzle that have been fit together. Some have been made to fit.
Mm-hmm. Okay, this is mine, full of stuff. So some of the things, like I finished college. The corporate world, climbing the ladder, sort of became my focus, being the career girl. And animals here, substitutes for relationships, probably, and babies, children. And then relationships, lots of relationships. But, sex in all the wrong places, just, getting involved. I got involved in a lot of relationships. I was pretending, dating. I traveled, since I was not married. And I wasn't in a lot of relationships. I mean, I had, short-term relationships or dating relationships, but anyway, so I took advantage and did a lot of traveling. I just said adventure, because that was another way of just, not having to think about, I would rather be doing this with my husband or children, or, instead it's like, doing just traveling. And then active, I was very active, the party, the drinking, food, binge eating. I was also into that, because of the stress and anxiety, dealing with a lot of depression, but covering that up. So all this stuff is what I was doing, but I wasn't dealing with what I should have been dealing with.
There's so much you can cover up and put out there for the world to see without anybody knowing what the real truth is inside you. You can dress up anything. You can make it look pretty and put a smile on and stay busy, like Jane said, going on a bunch of vacations and seeing the world. And I think they were really good. I think everybody really got in touch with what they were putting out there, so that nobody would know what was really going on.
This is something that I think is vitally important, that we often hesitate to admit our anger toward others for fear of rejection. And we find ourselves defending those we feel we should love. In order to heal, it's important to acknowledge our anger and to release it in a healthy way. Ephesians actually gives us a checklist for your anger. Assess your primary emotion. Is it from loss of control? Am I hurt? Am I indignant about something that is wrong? Take off your mask. Why is it that you're hurt? And talk through your feelings. Deal with the issues and confront. Communicate issues clearly and early. This is where I fall down on the job, the clearly and the early. Be sure that the goal is resolving the issues and not getting back at people. And in our humanness, in my humanness, boy, do I want a little bit of revenge. You've hurt my feelings, I want to hurt you back. Don't let the anger fester and rot. We've talked, many of us will hold on to it. And I think we become the pressure cooker, where that heat is just always there. It's just a slight heat, but man, when that pressure builds up and it goes, it's because the toothpaste cap was left
That's
off.
right.
And then understanding that God cares very deeply about your anger, about the situation. And I think this is one that we just have to practice over and over, turning it over to God, giving it back to Him. Lord, I'm really angry about this. I'm really frustrated. And I just need you to take it because I can't, because I'm really angry. And then replacing anger with forgiveness and compassion. Because God has forgiven us much, we need to be willing to forgive others. That is huge. When Surrender the Secret returns, we're going to do our anger letters now. We're going to do our anger letters now. I wrote mine in a journal, and so I made some copies of mine. Lord, where were you when I did this? Did you see me? Did I disgust you with my callous disregard for what you created? Show me, Lord, that you are not angry with me. I am searching for your light. I want out of the darkness. I want out of the prison. Make me free to reflect your glory. And then to the people that were involved, and I wrote here, this is an impossible task. I have no one to write to. I told no one. I went alone. But then, you know, it seems when you start writing, it just, for me, it kind of just comes. To my ex-husband. I had this abortion because I didn't want to be married to you anymore. I knew I didn't love you like I needed to in order to be your wife. You were not the husband I wanted. I was in love with the idea of being married and with the idea of love, but I wasn't in love with you. To Dan, who is my husband now. I had this abortion because I fell in love with you. And I knew that it was the only way that I could be with you. Because I couldn't get divorced if I was pregnant. And I wanted to be with you. This was your child. I knew that at the time. And I didn't think you'd want one that way. I saw no other way out of the mess that I had created. To my parents, I had this abortion because I didn't want to disappoint you. I didn't want you to see the mess I'd made. I was so afraid of what you'd think. I was afraid you'd talk me out of it. Why didn't I go to you? Why didn't I feel like I could go to you? You were supposed to help me. Why didn't you?
I think it is helpful for the group that Jill goes first. I think we all look up to her as our leader and as a very devoted Christian, and we kind of sometimes take our signals from her. You know, if Jill's okay, she did it, I'm gonna be okay. You know, I can do this.
When Surrender the Secret returns.
The words that were said to me by you are words no daughter should have to hear from her father. They are forever etched on my soul, if only for the purpose of reminding me how strong I am.
So, anybody who wants to jump right in and go next with this, feel free.
I'll go ahead and read mine. I decided to write a letter to the lawmakers. It's addressed to the lawmakers who have participated in the passing of legislation pertaining to abortion rights. It says, Dear lawmakers, I write to you today on behalf of all the women, not just in the United States, but around the world, who have been deceived by you and other lawmakers that have passed legislation in favor of legalized abortion. There's no way you could ever justify your actions to me or any other woman or man impacted negatively by abortion as to why you believe what you have done is right. There are so many women who have been misled by your propaganda that you call legislation. So many children murdered by your hands. It makes me sick. I am one of those many women who have been deceived by you. Have you ever thought about the children who were not allowed to be born? What their lives might have been like? What kind of people they might have been? Have you ever thought about the emotional and psychological impact this legislation has had on the many women who have had abortions? These women could easily be your wife, daughter, granddaughter, other female relatives, or close friends. Maybe you have, maybe not. But for whatever reason, what you have felt must not have been or is not strong enough to influence you to do the right thing by choosing life. The unborn baby that you call a fetus or blob of tissue is a human being, a separate person from its mother. He, she has the right to life. Sincerely, still grieving after 25 years, mother of an aborted child.
Nobody wants to take that step forward and say, hold on. Have you read the statistics? Have you read about what it does to women? Do you know anybody that's had one? Do you know how they feel and everything that comes along with it? It's not just this one day they went to a clinic and now it's done. I mean, it goes 20 years out and you're still being affected by it. And nobody has the guts to stand up and say, this is a major issue. And as our government, as our lawmakers, you're not paying any attention to it. Last night, I just grabbed a piece of paper and I wrote it to the doctor and nurses that were involved. It says, I'm angry at you. I was a young girl coming reluctantly to you for an abortion. I remember crying from the car ride to your office to the car ride home. None of you ever spoke to me about or asked me if I needed to talk to someone before I proceeded. It was quite obvious that I was hurting so much about my decision. The next day at the hospital for the final procedure, it wasn't until I was on the table that I was told my son may flail around and I may feel it when his heart starts to fail. I was already at the point of no return, but that information would have been a big help in my decision beforehand. I'm also angry that I was told I wasn't as far along as I was. Do you realize my son could have dreams, suck his thumb, grasp things, open his eyes, and feel pain? I can't allow myself to think about those things for too long. You as my doctor and nurses should have given me all the information needed to make an informed decision. I pray that no other woman has to go through the procedure that I went through. It is heartbreaking. And the other one I wrote was to my dad. Dad, it's time for me to release the anger and emotion I have for you and your actions during my pregnancy and abortion. Being so young and thinking that I was grown, I made a decision that I wasn't ready for. I needed a dad, someone to hug me and tell me everything is going to be okay. That no matter what, he would support my decision. For a brief second when you first found out, you were that dad. Then the more you thought about what I had done, the more judgmental, angry, and mean you got. The words that were said to me by you are words no daughter should have to hear from her father. They are forever etched on my soul, if only for the purpose of reminding me how strong I am. I learned a long time ago that hate in your heart will consume you. I have seen it. You helped lay the foundation and wall that is still between us today. I came out on the flip side of the situation, knowing to keep you at arm's length. You hurt me, you disrespected me, and you made part of me almost hate you. I have forgiven you, but I'm afraid I will never forget.
Courtney's letter is so touching, and it just goes to the heart of her pain when she said, Daddy, you didn't protect me. And that is what fathers are supposed to do. And that right there defined their relationship, regardless of what had happened before. because I don't think their relationship was that great before, but that was the defining moment. And when we as parents, particularly fathers, do not stand in the gap for their daughters, it just messes with all of the relationships we have. When Surrender the Secret returns.
Where were the loving words of encouragement or concern that would have given me the self-respect I deserved to know that I could do better and that I, as a person, was better? I personally came in very apprehensive about today's session because I wrote a letter about a family member who I feel confident will be interested in watching this show. And at the time of my abortion, I was young and I was removed from my family, and I was very angry afterwards. And now here 23 odd years later, to read something that I know will be as hurtful to her as it was painful for me, I'm still apprehensive about it, to be honest with you. I'm concerned. I'll preface by saying I'm not going to read my entire letter. But the part that I'll read is this, because I blamed my parents, partly blamed my parents for a long time for me even ending up with this guy that I was with. Again, because I was just looking for somebody to show me attention. When Dad was alive, you ignored me because you had to manage Dad and manage grandmother and manage yourself and your social calendar. When Dad died, you didn't have time for me because you had to find yourself and become you for the first time in your life. But now that life you've determined, all you have is me, your only daughter, your only child. You feel that I should welcome you with open arms and pretend that 40 years of ignoring and dismissing me should be forgotten. Suddenly my life should become your life. Suddenly I'm supposed to care about you and your welfare and take care of you. And my husband, who doesn't even take care of me, is supposed to take care of you also. You never protected me from anyone or anything. You never protected me from my friends who you knew were bad influences. How could you? You didn't know who half my friends were. Just as long as I was able to get to their homes by myself for play dates, I guess they were okay. And as long as you could sit in judgment of their parents, that would make you feel better. And you never protected me from the boys you hated, the boy, and you hated them. Where were the loving words of encouragement or concern that would have given me the self-respect I deserved to know that I could do better and that I, as a person, was better? I wish you'd been half as concerned about me as you were with everyone else that you had to make a priority in our lives. But now that those people are gone, don't come turning to me because I'm gone. I could get lost in that anger. I really could, and I don't want to.
It's so important in this that we understand that when we call on God as our Heavenly Father, and this is one of those things that I've had to work through, that He doesn't respond like our earthly father responds or doesn't respond. And that's, it's always been difficult for me to, when you say God the Father, because, my parents were divorced, and my real father is, wasn't in the picture that much. But when he was, I would never have gone to him. I would. And, you know, for me to really take to my heart that God does not respond in that fashion, that he responds with great love and tremendous sacrifice on our part. It's a hard lesson to grasp. When Surrender the Secret returns.
I didn't want to bring a baby in the world born to two parents that didn't really want him and considered him an inconvenience, so I got rid of him. An innocent soul destroyed.
That leads us to you, Vanessa.
Well, you know, it was funny because as I was seeing the angry letters and all the anger stuff, a whole chapter on anger, and the permission to be angry, I just didn't feel angry. You know, I really don't feel anger towards anybody in particular. You know, because if I say I truly forgive, I know God forgives me, and I've moved on. I have to let that part go. So. But then I thought, all right, who am I going to write a letter to? I guess I got to do this letter. Anyway, it just naturally came to me to do a letter to both my mother and father together, which is weird because my parents have been divorced for 20-something years, so they're not together. I haven't seen my father in, I want to say, about 20 years. So after they got divorced, I saw him a few times, and then I knew about what was going on with him on occasion when I would keep in touch with. I had an aunt that, he's one of 9 children, so I was very close to the youngest daughter. So we were pretty close for a while, and then an uncle I got, Facebook brings everybody closer together. So I found uncles and cousins, first cousins, and uncles I haven't talked to in a long time. So I kind of found out some stuff, but I do not have a relationship with my father at all, nor do I seek a relationship with my father, but. So that being said, and my mother, we've had a very tumultuous relationship over the years because my parents got divorced very young for my mother. And so when my parents, they got married very young, so my parents got divorced, that was my mother's time to escape. She got married at 17, so getting divorced at 30, she's like, it's party time. I never partied, so let me go out. So she did. And a lot. So I had to grow up pretty quickly and then had a younger brother I had to take care of. So I say all that to say I have issues with both of them, but they're separate. But my letter was to them together. I don't know really why, so I'll just read it, and if anybody wants to, whatever, just jump in. But, okay. And I wrote it to their names, so it wasn't like mom and dad, because I don't, again, I'm not a touchy-feely, warm, fuzzy person. I don't, so anyway, it's to them. Okay, I want you to know I forgive you now, but there were a lot of years I resented you both. Growing up in a home and life with you as parents, I often felt shame and disgust. The fighting, constant fighting, was unbearable. You were and are a terrible father. You beat my mother, my brothers, and had other children during your marriage. I learned all the wrong ways to deal with anger. I blame my short fuse on you. Your example of how to behave as a woman are a joke. I saw man after man come into your life, our lives, over the years after the divorce, and it was humiliating. I realize you've been through some horrible things, but it infected me so much I never knew the correct way to behave in a relationship. So I would have sex with guys I didn't care about. I learned loveless relationships, hurt them before they hurt me. The problem is that in the process I got pregnant at 19. I didn't want to bring a baby in the world born to two parents that didn't really want him and considered him an inconvenience, so I got rid of him. An innocent soul destroyed. Yes, I did it, but I blame you both as well. Myself, the father, the doctor, society, Satan. You were the ones that taught me how to love. What a joke. I am praying every day to God to help me to be a better spouse, to have healthy relationships, to put him, my God, first and center of everything. I can forgive only because I have been forgiven for so much. It's so hard. Just 1 second, I'm sorry, okay. It's so hard, especially when I consider the commandment that comes with the lovely blessing of long life. So I choose life. I honor you both by not dishonoring you. God said, honor your mother and father, not because they're worthy, but he commands me to do so. So I choose so. You chose life for me, and so I thank you. I still hurt, but it's a lot less, and I look upon my sweet 3 babies that I have been gifted with having. And I pray comfort and peace and salvation for you both. So that's it. It was just blurry. And that's it. So,
Really nice.
thank you.
I mean, it's a good letter. It's a very good letter.
What I want us to do now is I want you all to take your letter and we are going to destroy them. I want you to either crumple it up or rip it up, and then I'm gonna take the remains and we'll do something with them at another time. But this is not who we are. This does not define us. We are not defined by this choice. We are defined by the choice we made when we said yes to Christ. I'd like to take a flamethrower to that right now.
Everybody's letter touched me because they all experienced something different, but it was interesting to find that a couple of the ladies, their letters were also to their parents, which my letter was. And I felt that, again, it kind of justified in my mind where I'm thinking, you know, obviously that the core of the hurt is before you even get to the point of making that decision to have the abortion. You know, it's not just in that moment. It is, you got to that place because of something, and all the other ladies, for the most part, had that same type of experience. Even though their childhoods are different, they still were hurt in that time.
So I have this lovely bowl of rocks.
Oh.
I want you to think about people that, where you still might have some anger. And this, I think, is very cathartic because we can get it out and look at it and start to deal with it in that biblical fashion. But it doesn't get rid of it all the way. I know it doesn't get rid of it for me. I mean, and so what I want you to do with the rocks that are on the table is that I want you to think about who are you still angry with? And what we're gonna do is for every person or situation that you're still angry with, I want you to take a rock and you're gonna carry it with you for this next week until we get back together. Everybody gets a plastic bag. And just think about, and if you're okay with telling us, here we go.
Oh, I'm just gonna pass it around.
I should just empty it into my bag. You know, and I didn't realize that I was still angry at my parents. Actually, I guess I get 2 for them. Mm-hmm. And I should take a huge handful for the media. Mm-hmm. So I'll take a couple for them. I'll let somebody else go now.
Definitely my dad and the doctor and the nurses. My church that I grew up in, not the church I'm at now.
Yeah.
Okay. Mom and Dad, gotta love them. Okay. I've actually transferred some anger to my husband, who was not involved in any way, but as we know, the pain can still continue into having or not having children after the abortion, and so I have some pain around that.
Okay, I'll grab Mom and Dad. He's got that. And then our government train wrecks. And then the doctor, who I started remembering more clearly.
Okay, and might as well carry the parent theme here. Parent trap, yeah, the parent trap, and the media, and like Kelly, I still have I have some anger at myself still about it. You know.
Oh, I forgot to put one in for myself.
I kind of thought that's sort of where you were going, I guess.
And Jill grabbed the biggest rock in there for me. Because still a lot of angry on that one. That's a good point.
You know, and the purpose of the exercise is that you keep this with you. And it's a physical reminder of how much anger weighs us down. And that in order to come to a place of healing, to come to a place of freedom, you know, we're gonna have to be able to take this and give it back.
You don't realize the heaviness that you're carrying with all that anger inside you and how it's consuming you until you have something tangible there. And you're carrying it in your purse or your pocket and you're just like, man, this is really getting heavy, or it's just aggravating. I know the last time I did the study, I had my rocks in my purse and I would go get something out of my purse and be like, God, these stupid rocks are in the way. and it's almost like you realize that anger is keeping you from certain things, from true happiness, from a true honest relationship with God or with yourself or with your other family members or your spouse or your kids. That anger can really suppress who you are. And it's a burden to carry around. You just want to put it down. And so I think the rocks just show you how uncomfortable and how heavy of a burden it is to carry all that anger inside you.
I'm really glad this week is over. I mean, it's, we're kind of at the pinnacle right now, the peak of dealing with the pain and the shame. And now we get to start going into the healing part. And so I'm really glad this is over, because now we can start looking at it as, what do we do with this information to start healing ourselves?
The blood of the cross takes everything and it's washed away. And that's what Christ has done for us.